So I've noticed something about the singles on Eurovision Song Contest and the singles on American Song Contest. American Song Contest, they really have only the radio edition as well as the edition that they performed, which sometimes had to be cut down or they had to take out some expletives. But Eurovision, you have multiple versions a lot of the times. You get the national final version, sometimes you cut it down, sometimes you change some of the lyrics, maybe because you also change the language, sometimes you change the beat of the song, maybe you want to make it more upbeat or less upbeat, more down to earth, and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of hard to tell, unless you have the Eurovision official CD, what edition you want to reference if you want to build your Spotify playlist. So yeah, collecting the ASC singles is far better because it's just far easier. Hello, this is J.E. Realize, and today I'm going to be talking about the grand final of Eurovision 2022. I know some of you hate me for putting you on edge like this, but I need to figure out how best to watch Eurovision, and you chose to watch this. So I decided not to watch the qualifiers from both semifinal 1 and semifinal 2, and I'm gonna find out these entries over the course of the running order, which meant I also had to skip the flag ceremony. Whoops. Also, here is the provisional final. I had to change a few things according to the list, and not all the entries you see here have qualified for the final, and some have qualified that I didn't put in my top 10 for that particular semifinal. And a few things changed relative to some of the countries relative to each other compared to where they were in the semifinals. But of course, going into this, I don't know the list yet, so we're just gonna go with the assumption. So after the flag ceremony, we get a bit talking points, we talk about how the voting works, we have a little gratuitous French, and we move on to the very first song of the competition, the Czech Republic. What is it with Eurovision these days? And if they ever have a situation in which the final act performing in semifinal 2 advances to the final and gets drawn to perform in the first half, they end up performing first in the final. They did this with What's the Pressure, they did this with I Feel Alive, they did this with Under the Ladder. Have you noticed this? But hey, I'm down for the song. That's all I need to say. Second up is Romania. I kind of expected it given how the song is, but I wasn't too interested in it. Third is Portugal, which when I found out this song was up, I was like, yes! I think this is my new favorite of semifinal 1. I'll get into that. But for now, all you need to know is that the whole seance feeling of the song just kept getting into me until I had really no choice. It might even be in my top 5 of this year. Fourth is Finland, which, yeah. Fifth is Switzerland, which is kind of mind-boggling. Okay. Sixth is France, and you remember that one Fairly Odd Parents episode in which Timmy Turner wished Vicky wouldn't be so mean, and a bug popped out of Vicky and just infected people and made them mean? This is kind of what I feel like happened with France and Lithuania. France decided not to be France. They decided to send in some participants from Brittany, I think. And instead, the French vibe we got was from Lithuania. So, you needed to get that French song vibe somewhere. But yeah, a Breton song isn't something I would have expected from France. Yes, it's not impossible, and I think that has been done before, but that one really took me out of the game. It's like, look at all this Gaelic feel, man. I'm not sure how I feel about the song, but I'll tell you one thing. Mystery level is 10 out of 10, because I would never have expected France to allow this. I thought France was too proud to allow this. I guess there's some hope for a Scottish representative in Great Britain then. Not this year, but eventually. Then we get Norway, which it's fair to assume that Norway would get in. Then we get Armenia, which is really only interesting because she redoes that scene where she tears off that giant hole in the wall. But besides that, this song is just a bizarre qualifier choice. It's just kind of boring. And I kind of said something similar with Malta's 2019 entry. It wasn't that that entry was not enticing. It was just too generic for my blood, and Armenia's like even less exciting things to say about it. And now we go into Italy. And I feel like I'm being punished for saying that I didn't like Serbia's song because it reminded me a lot like Italy's 2019 song. Because they brought back Mahmood! And he had a friend named Blanco, and they performed Brevity, and I'm reminded as to why I don't really like Mahmood. This song is really nothing special to me. It's a lot like L'Essentiale in 2013, a song that just shows up, performs, you think nothing of it, and then you go WTF when you wonder why is it in the top 10. Like, if it weren't for the fact that this was Italy, and if it weren't for the fact that they have a strict vetting process known as the San Remo Festival, I would have thought, was the host country trying to throw the competition? Which is a fair assessment. Who would want to host it twice in a row? But, yeah, I mean, it's like nothing to write home about. Mystery level 8 out of 10. Everyone was telling me that Brevity was a thing. The only reason it's high at all is because no one told me Mahmood was behind it. They just assumed, you know. And then they follow that up with Spain. And I have a feeling Spain only sent in that song not because they want to get better at Eurovision, but because they want to fist Romania hard for trying to get at their niche. So they decided to send in a song that was kind of the polar opposite of the standard Latin EDM song, in which the Latin EDM songs like Despacito or Fuego or that sort of stuff would use Spanish only rarely and as a hook in the chorus, while the opposite happened here. Spanish consists of basically most of the song except for the hook in the chorus. You know what? I'll give you credit for that one. Also, that outfit looks rather nice. It's like they combined a tango outfit with a mariachi outfit. It's like real neat to see as a Mexican. And of course, that Spanish flavor. I mean, Romania is gonna get roasted and toasted. Mystery level 6 out of 10 because I was kind of aware that they were going to beef up their game. Then we get the Netherlands, which is nice to see. It turns out, though, that they were the final qualifiers announced from semifinal 1, which I'll get into. Then we get Ukraine. And, yeah, when I first heard the name of this song, I was like, wait, they're talking about the girl who sung Last Dance in 2021? No, apparently it was some other Stefania. And I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be your mom. All kidding aside, except for the part where they said mamo, I'm pretty sure that means mom. It's a kickin' ethnic hip-hop beat. The dance moves, the flute gets me. I wouldn't say it's in it kills me territory, but it gets me bopping every time I hear that rhythm. I will say, though, the whole he comes charging up at us, like shuffling toward the camera, is kind of alarming. It looks like he's trying to attack me. Please keep in mind that I am thousands of kilometers away from the screen. Mystery level is inconclusive because I seriously had no idea if Ukraine was going to be in the competition or not. The mystery levels only factor in how much I know of a song that a country is sending, not whether a country was going to compete at all. There, I talked about Ukraine. Finally got that checked off my list. It would have been painful irony if Ukraine didn't qualify, but we all knew Ukraine was going to qualify. Next we get Germany, and the title and the theme of the song reminds me of Rock and Roll Kids from 1994. Okay, so they're trying to copy that song with a modern, and by modern I mean late 2000s song aesthetic, with slight Eminem vibes with the talk sing. And talk singing was something that Lena, another Eurovision winner, did. So, 2 for 2 on copying Eurovision winners. Is this really a good strategy, Germany? It's admittedly not a bad song, real nice, but it reminds me of something. Like, there was this one song, I believe, that was very reminiscent, not really the usual style for a particular group, more reflective on the past, and really spoke a lot about that sort of song. I just can't think of that song. Mystery level 9.5 out of 10, because I feel Rockstars is a name I may have heard before. Next we get Lithuania. I told you what I told you about how they're being French. Then we get Azerbaijan, okay. Belgium, okay. Greece, okay. Iceland, which is neat, and it's still on my top 10 list, but is complicated by the fact that I keep forgetting what the song sounds like. It's kind of telling when I forget what a song sounds like. I don't expect this song to do well in the final only because of that. The aesthetic is still fine though. And then we have Moldova, which is a nice refresher after the past few songs. I already told you about this song, but later on, a few songs later, but I decided to pull that point here, I realized all the semi-final 1 announcers have been announced. 2 of my top 3 have been eliminated. Austria's gone, which admittedly isn't surprising, and Latvia's gone, which admittedly is also not surprising. But it still is to me. Latvia had quite the meme danceable song. I'm like, what? How did that not make it through? And then there's Austria, which I guess I called it. But I still love that song, man. It's just a disservice. You're lucky that I placed Portugal in retrospect above Latvia and Austria on my provisional finalists. Otherwise, I would be hammering it into you. Whatever that means. I have no idea. I just look like I know what I'm talking about. Then we have Sweden. Okay, I'm going to say a few things about Sweden. First, I was going to make a list of semifinal 1 and semifinal 2 performers ranked by running order, and do a sort of meme list where I would say exactly what was on my mind when I heard about the songs. And first off, I was going to say for Sweden that she looks like Jodie Whittaker, which surprisingly I haven't seen her perform as the Doctor in Doctor Who. I haven't managed to see any of those episodes. And apparently they announced a new Doctor recently, so that means that entire lineup of episodes I have no idea happened. Also, I was going to say something around the effect of the song Hold Me Closer reminded me of my last semester at university. I would love to get into that story one day, but then I realized one thing. She's European, she's blonde, we all know that, you know, it's not really blonde, it just looks blonde. She looks about my age, and her name is Cornelia. What magical girl team does that remind you of when I tell you all of this? Okay, I know you're tempted to say it because we're in Italy, but it's not Wings Club. I'm talking about Witch. Cornelia, Guardian of Earth. Also, I forgot to mention that Cornelia must have been a teenager around the time the Witch shows came out, even though they were based on the book, but let's not get into the minutia. And I decided to go Overthinking Eurovision and talk about this song may have been how she expressed her sorrow of losing a lover that she really had a crush on before she became a magical girl, and then that lover found out about her secret identity, and they got together for a little while, and she expressed her sorrow that she couldn't keep it because the rest of her team and some other people from Kandrakar told her that he cannot know this. His memory needs to be erased. And so the enchantment would kick in at dawn, and she would be long gone. It gave me that sort of vibe. It shows me that I can now do Overthinking Eurovision, unless the guys at Overthinking Eurovision had already come up with this point about how Cornelia is from Witch. In which case, oh goodness sake. But you deserved it for ruining so much of Eurovision for me and having to create the mystery level system in retrospect. Come on, all I wanted to do was watch ASC stuff. Next up is Australia, and they qualified again! They never failed to qualify from the host country in Eurovision through the semi-final. Never! Never! 2021, they weren't even in Rotterdam. That doesn't count. They're back, they're in Torino, they qualified. That's all you have to say about the matter. Moving on. And move on we do, because we get King Kyote representing Maine. No, wait. This isn't King Kyote. He sure looks like it, but no, it's Sam Ryder from the United Kingdom with the song Spaceman. And I'm going to say this up front. Mystery level 1 out of 10. TikTok would not shut up about it when all I was doing was looking up American Song Contest songs. Like, you look through my TikTok, there is no Eurovision search history. None! Also, my sister had a fair hand in spoiling me about this, so I know he's big on TikTok, and I thought maybe they are onto something with Spaceman. The problem is, I'm not sold on it. This song is a bit more polished, a bit more professional than the stuff that the United Kingdom normally sends. But that wasn't the problem the United Kingdom had. The problem was that they were too polished. They were too professional. They were playing it safe. They weren't really doing any crazy things on stage. They weren't doing anything special. Spaceman, sure, they had lights, they had that nice sparkly outfit, and that effect with the spotlights that looked like a fighter jet was flying right in front of you. That was neat. But otherwise, I'm like, I don't really have much of a hope for this song. This is what people were hyped up about? Really? I mean, they fooled me. I'll give them that. But dang, King Kyote, I expected a whole lot more from you. At least send Get Out Alive. At the very least, I loved that song. Then we get Poland, and Poland I actually kind of secretly wanted. It became too much of an earworm for me. It's like, I couldn't get that song out of my head. And then we get Serbia? What? It's like somehow the Doctor Who villain qualified. I'm floored. You had so many songs, and I neglected to tell you this. Semifinal 1 closed a while back, and I have 7 out of my 10 provisional final qualifiers on that list. Up until Poland, I felt really confident about my chances of getting more than 7 out of 10, because in the entire history of doing these rankings, I have never achieved that. Then Poland came in, I'm like, I could still do well. I could probably get 8 out of 10, maybe. Then Serbia came in, I'm like, shows me for disrespecting Soldi and Serbia. And I was legitimately nervous. I told you I didn't know the qualifiers beforehand, and I was worried that the final song would be something just really hurtful to me, like Malta or something like that. But hope came. And no, that's not just a metaphor. The song sent in by Estonia came in on a white stallion, or however the metaphor goes. Yes, I'm back to metaphors. And that really got my hopes up. There are a few songs that I wish I could have seen from semifinal 2 that didn't qualify. Notably Ireland, of whose song I still don't know what's called. I feel like there was an agenda. I feel like there really was an agenda. When Serbia came out onto the scene, I actually had to decide right in front of me if I wanted Estonia or Ireland. Estonia had the better song, and kudos to them. But now we'll never know what Ireland's song is. But hey, we're not done yet, because that's only 25 entries. What about the United States? I will say, before we move on to the rest of the show, that I totally get what the Eurovision fans are on about. The United States is a little too ashamed to express themselves. They've just been shamed and guilted out of the sort of stuff that... No, America never had that sort of stuff in the first place. Eurovision had always been camp. It's just that eventually they finally made the camp their own. ASC, well, it's a fine professional performance, but you know what? I think I'll get back into that when I talk about the ASC again, which won't be long from now. Then afterwards we get the announcement that voting starts, and we get all this other stuff, which I will get back to, because now we need to carry it over to Future Me, who is going to be talking about... No! You idiot! I'm not talking about the YouTube channel, Hello Future Me. I'm talking about me, J.E. Realize, a few days from when this video was recorded. I'm telling you, this is a process. You're good to go. Hey, thank you! And before we move on to talking about the votes, let's talk a bit about the other performances that weren't the competitors. We had a bit of opening acts. We've seen Laura sing a few songs. We've seen Mika in the interval act sing a few songs. We've seen Måneskin, and they performed Supermodel. It was neat to see them perform Supermodel, but what sucks is that my radio station, which I will not name, promises they will play Supermodel. Like, no. Like, between each song, they would say, next up, Måneskin, Supermodel. And the next song is not Måneskin or Supermodel. I don't know why they are holding out. They played Beggin'. They played a cover of a popular song. What's stopping you from playing Måneskin with an original song? It's not even in Italian! There were a few other neat moments, like we saw some clips of what happened in the first and second semifinal, which is pretty neat for the people who cared to watch the semifinal. And for the people who want to know why Ireland isn't in the competition, they can go back to semifinal 2 and wonder why no one knows what the song is called. But I digress. It's time to get into the voting. International Space Station. Yeah, that's apparently what closes out the entire voting period. But I gotta steel myself because everything could go wrong. Like, if Spain doesn't make it to the top 10, if Sweden doesn't make it to the top 10, and several other songs, I'm just not going to feel that well. And if a song that I didn't see coming out of the semifinal wins the final, I'm just going to be roasted and toasted. There's no other way I can say it. But let's finally get into this. Who do we have in the grand final? Who wins and who passes the Turin Test? Good evening, Europe. Good morning, Australia. And good afternoon, America. And congratulations, Russia. You killed Eurovision. So, before we get into all that, we should talk about the jury voting. And I honestly did not expect the UK to do that well. I bet you Graham Norton passed out in the commentary booth that well. Seriously, no idea. They just took command and got the Marcel Benson-Son Award for Best Press in all of Eurovision this year. That's rather crazy impressive, I gotta say. In second place in the jury vote was Cornelia Jacobs from Sweden, and she also snagged the Marcel Benson-Son Award for Best Composer. And you know what, I actually kind of like this. And also the third up, Slow Mo from Spain got third in the juries, and that is just crazy. That really is, all of that. That was pretty fun. What wasn't pretty fun is while the UK and Spain did really well, Germany, not so much. They zeroed out on the jury vote, which is rather disappointing. I mean, they tried. That was a fine song. They tried. Things seem pretty fine for the jury votes, and Ukraine was fourth with 192 points. But then we get into the televote. Luckily, Germany nabbed some points. Switzerland, on the other hand, wasn't as fortunate as they got zeroed out by the public, and yeah, that kind of makes sense. Australia, in the end, got beaten by the UK, which is rather funny, given how the UK was usually beaten by Australia. Songs shuffled about a bit. I didn't really have much complaints. Then Serbia came barreling into the top 5 and also getting the Artist Award. So, wow. It's just, I don't see the appeal. It's just a little bizarre. Also, Italy got 6th place, and I should have given the 6th place award to them, considering they were really hyped up by fans of the contest. But you know, that's the nature of things. At least they didn't win. That was embarrassing and a half. Just to finish off with the whole 6th place award, I told you, this is what happens. A song gets super hyped and just barely makes it to top 5, and in this case, it was Italy. But then as votes kept getting doled out and kept getting doled out and then kept getting doled out, Ukraine got a whopping, what was it, 439 points? Just for you to understand, the maximum amount of points you can get from either the jury vote or the public vote, assuming that there are 40 countries competing and you cannot vote for yourself, is 468. This is on par with Alexa's public vote score, which nearly swept every state. for 12 points from them. And by the way, Sweden, I'm still waiting for those American Song Contest full voting breakdowns. Come on. Before I continue, I need to lighten things up. They changed the name of the Barbara Dex Award to the Eurovision Award. So I have an idea what we should call the version for the United States. Eurovision Award. Perfect. And Australia took home that trophy, so they at least get something, despite the fact that the public vote don't really care for them anymore. Seriously, giving them that guaranteed Eurovision spot until 2023 is looking a bit short-sighted. And also, I totally understand why the US hasn't been talked about in Eurovision. It totally makes sense. This is such a disaster. And Sweden won the OGAE award, which is a fan-run poll thing. They've been going around for a long time, but that's really neat. Sweden's song I still loved, and Sweden ended up in 4th place after all of this, because guess what? When you got like 250-ish points from the juries, and then this one guy comes in and takes nearly all the points from the televote that are possible, it's kind of hard to mount an offensive after that. Like, for example, when Spain was about to receive their votes, God bless their hearts, I basically did the math in my head and I figured it was impossible for Spain to get enough 10 points and 12 points to ever beat Ukraine. And there were still points on the table, it's just that they were limited by the number of countries that could vote for them. So at that point I wrote the entire contest off. It's inconceivable that anyone could beat Ukraine. And on top of that, I've been reading through, and apparently there have been a lot of voting issues through the semifinals and the final, particularly with the jury. Like, Martin Osterdahl had to present some of the votes, for instance, because they couldn't establish a signal with some of the countries, which isn't usually something that happens. Like back in the Jan Olasan series of Eurovision Song Contest, if a country couldn't respond by satellite, they would come back to them at the end of the jury voting to get their points. But dagnab, EBU, they really conked this one up. Well, it's not entirely their fault, considering that Ukraine, a country that is under attack by another sovereign entity, is in this contest. Of course, it would make sense that they would receive a whole bunch of points, which is why I said, congratulations, Russia, you destroyed Eurovision. And considering Russia has had their own version of Eurovision in the past called Intervision, especially a 2008 remake, and of course this whole Russovision I heard about, it wouldn't be surprising if one of the strategies used to weaken the European hegemony would be to go after Eurovision. It's always been about love, love, peace, peace. It seemed perfect. If you ruin trust in that contest, then everything else falls apart. And I cannot believe I had to say that, given that that is such a conspiratorial take to have. But I cannot believe anything else. People have conspired to try to get themselves more points in Eurovision before. There's a precedent. And on top of that, how is Ukraine going to host the Eurovision Song Contest next year? What with their country destroyed? Well, mostly it's the east half. But still, if you hold the contest in Lviv, for instance, you're gonna still need a massive bailout to build it. Which is why I find it funny, in the end, that United Kingdom came in second. Because the United Kingdom, while it didn't win the most times of any Eurovision country, they have hosted the most times. And at first, it was because they got second place. And then eventually it just became customary to give it to the UK if no one wanted to host. And then that one time where it was hosted in the Netherlands instead, we don't talk about that. So it's very possible that next year we're going to get Eurovision in Manchester, which, I would have preferred the contest be held in, I don't know, Madrid or Toledo or Sevilla, or probably not Barcelona because, you know, things over there are just not going very well. But I was hoping that I would get some levity after the disaster that was American Song Contest. And it's not because I didn't like American Song Contest, but they just did a bad job. The songs were okay, but everything else is just mostly bad. Then I watch Eurovision. The songs are pretty good, but then we go into the results and all this tomfoolery, and I still don't know who represented Ireland. Someone tell me below in the comments. And I just disappointed. It's just a mess. I mean, still, congratulations to Ukraine. You won the contest according to the rules, and that was a pretty solid ethnic hip-hop song that I have to say I liked. But it's not even a case of personal opinion alone that makes me feel like that this contest was kind of lacking. I mean, the EBU has been trying to expand song contests, but right now, Eurovision itself is in crisis. And you know what? I have a perfect solution for you, EBU, to at least help you with the public voting. I don't really know how to help you with the jury voting. That's on you. But with the public voting, here's my idea. I call it the sprint. Instead of giving out points from lowest in the juries to highest in the juries, you give out 1 point per second to each country that has yet to receive all their points from the public. If they have received all their points from the public, then they stop receiving points and they fall out to the sprint. And this continues until all the points have been given to all the countries. And in the case of Ukraine, this contest would have probably lasted no longer than, well, realistically, no longer than like 6 minutes. But the idea is when the contest starts, all the 0-pointers stop getting points. Well, they didn't get any points to begin with. And then eventually you would stop giving points to the people who only get 2 points, then 3 points, then 8 points, then 12 points. And then eventually the countries that are receiving a lot of points go closer and closer to the top until they stop getting points. And I feel like that could work as a new solution of presenting the public vote. And I want you to tell me about that sort of stuff. I'll contact you if that's what you insist that to be. I know that this is unsolicited, but I really have no other way of telling you what to do. So you'll have to pardon me on that one. But otherwise, dang, this was a bit of a shame. And who knows if the tomfoolery cost Ireland or Austria or Latvia entry into the final. I don't know how to feel. Again, I was hoping that this contest would make me cheer up. And while the songs were pretty good, I still feel let down. I guess we'll see what happens in 2023. But for now, do the feedback thing. Like, comment, subscribe, or dislike because I disagree with the way that Eurovision is being run these days. Follow me on Twitter at JERealize. This has been JERealize. I'll see you next time. I still care about Ukraine humanitarian-wise. It's just, this is Eurovision.